Good evening. I'm Sibs Matiela, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Private Property Podcast, where we connect you to the heart of property. We talk all things property with anyone who knows anything, which is not me, and that's why we bring in the experts. Today's topic is all about choosing the right property investment course for you. If we've learned anything over the past couple of episodes, it's that location is everything. But secondly, education is key. Getting all of the facts, taking the courses, taking in all of the information, watching the podcast every day is the best way to find out how really to do this thing and optimize, your property portfolio and journey. Today we're speaking to Andrew Walker, who's the Managing Director at the South African Property Network. Andrew, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, and thank you very much for having me on your show.
It's an absolute pleasure. Could you tell me what the South African Property Network does and what your role is specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So the SA Property Investors Network, it's a community of like-minded property investors across South Africa. Whether you're wanting to buy your very first investment property, or you're a seasoned investor and you want to start doing developments or bigger stuff, at SAPIN, we connect investors, we give investors education, and we help them move forwards. That's what we do at the SA Property Investors Network, and I've been heading up this company for the last 9 years, so it's super exciting for anyone in the property space.
So, Andrew, when it comes to the property investment course, someone who doesn't know where to begin, what would you recommend?
Yeah, look, so for me, it's all about the fundamentals of property in South Africa. So if you're a newbie and you want to get into property, look, there's all different strategies. There's student accommodation, there's development, there's buy-to-lets, there's flipping properties. There's a lot one can do in South Africa. If you're starting out in property, you must learn the fundamentals of investing in South Africa. You must understand what all the different strategies are. You need to understand what are the risks when I get into property, what can go wrong. So there's a course called the SA Fundamental Course, and that course was put together for all beginners in South Africa with regards to, I want to get into property, but where do I go? Where do I start? How do I take the first step? Because I'm sure you'll agree with me, Sibs, that a beginner should not go do a massive building in the CBD or become a developer just yet. There's baby steps. So the SA Fundamental Course is for all beginners it's for all beginners. It'll help the beginners understand where should they start. Should they start in Joburg or Cape Town or Pretoria? Should they start with buy-to-lets or flipping? It's going to give them the fundamentals that they need to know.
How long on average does a course take?
So this specific course is 12 modules. The good thing about it, Sibs, is that it is online, and you can go as fast or slow as you want. So when you do go into the course, the great thing about it, there's videos, there's PDFs, there's downloadable resources. And the course, Sibs, I've had some clients do the course in a few weeks, and I've got some students of ours that are busy. Their moms or dads have got busy businesses, and they're still in a job, and they can only do the course on a weekend. So Sibs, for some people, it takes them 4 to 6 months. And the people that do have the time, that get stuck in, they can get it done within 2 weeks. So it really depends on how much time you give the course. And the great thing is you can watch it again and again.
That's great, Andrew. Look, a lot of people talk about the value of diversifying your portfolio. And it sounds like a really smart thing to say. But how does diversifying actually affect one's property portfolio? And what would you say is the most important thing about it?
Yeah, look, I think it's a very good question, because you don't have all your eggs in one basket, right? And we always talk about, be careful of diversifying too aggressively, because what you don't want to do is, for example, you start up in Johannesburg, and say, for example, I live here in Johannesburg, and then I'll go buy property in Nelspruit, in Cape Town, in Durban, and I start diversifying too aggressively, too quickly, and I don't keep my finger on the pulse. That's when things start going wrong. However, by starting with a clear strategy, and you start buying a certain type of property, for example, a beginner starts out and he buys a buy-to-let in Johannesburg as the example. Then he gets a second, third, fourth, for example. Now he's got him or her have got confidence, and they really understand what they're doing in the buy-to-let sector. It might be time for them to diversify into student accommodation, slightly higher risks, but now that investor understands what they've got themselves into because they've got a small portfolio. So it's very wise to diversify into a different strategy within the property sector. Why? Because you're going to get better returns. And from there, and then diversifying further from there, then you might start buying in different cities, and then you might start doing bigger deals. So diversifying could be really good, but it can also be really risky if you don't do it correctly, because I've seen it happen before when people that start with money, they're too aggressive and they buy too many properties, they're buying different cities, and they don't know how to control it. So I've got two answers there, Sibs. It could be really good if you get the timing right and you do it step by step, and you start small, you start with the basics and you grow. But you start too aggressively and you're buying too many different areas and you haven't done your research, that is sometimes what can bring a portfolio down. If that makes sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And I'm glad you brought up the money and the numbers, because it's all about the money. I mean, it's about the property, but it's also about the money if we're talking about investment and growth and having assets to build, your wealth. So what I would ask you is, now, if we consider the current economic climate, do you think it's a good time to be investing in property at all?
Yeah, look, and again, I'm going to say that's another good question, because it's a question I get almost on a weekly basis, Sibs. So here's the question: when is the best time to invest? And I've had this conversation with group CEOs of property companies here in South Africa and out there in the UK and the rest of the world. Here's the reality, is that we've seen people, and myself included, you can make money in a rising market and you can make money in a downturn market. You just got to understand what you're getting yourself into, because at the end of the day, when it comes to property, everyone needs a place to live. Everyone needs a place to work from. The demand in South Africa, whether we're in a recession or out of recession, is still very strong from a property point of view. You just got to understand what sector you're getting into. And we said it before about the numbers. We need to learn how to run the numbers. So let's say, for example, we're in a recession, interest rates are going back up, people are going to be squeezed. When we get into property, so some people might be getting scared and I go, oh, I don't want to get into property because it's not the right time. But if you know what you're getting yourself into, if you're buying the property below market value, ensure that when you buy the property, there's some equity in the property. When you buy the property and you're going to put a tenant into the property, does the tenant's rent cover all the expenses? Does it cover your bond payment? Does it cover your rates and taxes? Does it cover your levies? Does it cover your rental insurance with preferential? Because if the rent's going to cover all the expenses and Sibs, we get a rental guarantee on the rent. We're now starting to mitigate the risk. And then Sibs, let's say something goes wrong for whatever reason. The question is, can we sell the property and get out without losing? Because if the answer is yes, if I can sell the property and get out without losing, well, then it's okay to buy in this recession, because I can get in, I've got equity, I know that I'm going to get a positive cash flow from the property, and because I've been educated, because I've done the SA fundamental course, I understand the fundamentals of investing. What happens if interest rates go up? Well, when we're running the numbers initially, Sibs, we mustn't work on prime, let's work on prime plus 2 as an example. So if interest rates do go up, and they are going to go up, obviously, as long as that rent still covers all the expenses, we're okay.
I'm glad you brought up the fundamentals course again, because my next question is, are there any requirements for one wanting to enroll in any of the courses that are offered by the South African Property Network?
No, there's no pre-requirements. The courses are open to the general public. And we always say, yes, we do have an Airbnb course. We do have a flipping course. We do have an offer to purchase course. But Sibs, it begins with the basics. The SA fundamental course is the fundamentals. And Sibs, we've had young people on this course, as young as 16-year-olds, all the way up to, I think the oldest clients I had was about 75 years old. So that showed me that it doesn't matter how young or how old you are or what your previous experience is. If you have that need or want, or Andrew, you know what, I want to get into property, but I don't want to make the mistakes, they'll start with the SA fundamental course and know there's no requirements for them.
Do you think technology has affected the way that people learn about property and property investing? I mean, I know you guys are using it to your advantage with your digital materials, things you can download, watching the videos, and that opportunity that you wouldn't get necessarily in a physical course to press pause and rewind and then listen to the thing again later. So obviously it's had a positive impact for you. But how much would you say that the tech element has shifted the landscape?
Yeah, look, I think the great thing with tech, and there's two sides here. There's a technology on our learning side, the education side, and there's the technology that investors are using to invest in property and to manage their property. So yes, it's 100%. On the technology side, going online, we are now able to reach thousands of students across South Africa, and we are changing lives and we are helping people invest in property. Now, the other side, Sibs, is the technology. So I'm not sure if you've heard of a company called Preferential. So Preferential is a tech-based business to help landlords manage their properties. What do I mean by that, Sib? So as you all know, if you're a buy-to-let owner, you're either going to self-manage and you're going to use spreadsheets or Word docs, or you might use some accountancy software, or you're going to hand your property over to a full-blown letting agent like Remax or Just Property or one of the big giants. Preferential comes in the middle, where it helps the investor with a technology platform. So it's going to manage your rent, your deposits. It's going to give you a rental guarantee. It's going to take precepts. It takes care of all of your basic admin work. All you've got to do as a landlord is be the jockey on the ground. So you do the viewing of the property with the tenants. You will do the maintenance, inspections, but all the automatic reminders for invoices, all the general admins taken care of by technology. So Sibs, if you take an investor who's buying one property, two, and they get to 10 or 15 or 20 units, there's a lot of administration involved, and especially if you're using spreadsheets and using Word docs, it's so easy to make mistakes. So a company like Preferential has come into they've been in the market for like 5 years now, and that piece of technology is helping investors manage their properties. And I'm sure you've heard, Sibs, of companies like that they've got Stockfile, and there's technology now around Stockfile and crowdfunding. Sibs is a massive one. I'm meeting so many people in the technology space that are using crowdfunding. So that is an investor loads a property, they go to a network like SAPIN, and a whole bunch of investors invest into the crowdfunding platform. So yes, technology is in the property space and it's scaling very quickly.
I think now, since we're speaking about technology and these sort of courses and the offerings and the not technology, just the tools that we're seeing online and the offerings that people have, you know, there's also a downside if they're being scam artists. People saying, invest your money here, put your money here. We have a course, give us $10 million and we'll tell you all about property. What kind of scams do you see and have encountered when it comes to now these investment courses and the offerings?
Yeah, 100%. The biggest thing that anyone must do before you part with any money on any course, do your due diligence on the person who's behind that company, on the person who's delivering the course. And I don't think, for me, I wouldn't say scam is maybe the right word, but you know, somebody goes out there, Sibs, they do one property deal, and all of a sudden they're a property coach, they're a property mentor, they're going to teach South Africa how to do property, but they've got 12 months worth of experience. So that might just be a young, hungry individual, and they want to start making money from coaching and courses, but they don't really have, I'll use the word backbone or experience. So for anyone going, and there's a lot of great property education companies out there, go actually find out, but who's the person behind the company? How many years of experience have you got? How many property deals have you been involved with? And make sure that when you do get the right, or when you do get the education, that you're dealing with a reputable company. Because I think, Sibs, what I've heard on the grapevine is that some people pay a few $100,000 for a course, and it doesn't, and they start delivering it, but they don't finish it. So be very careful about how much money you pay up front. And I think, coming back to what I said before, when you get into a property deal, you do due diligence on the deal, don't you? Make sure it's the right deal. It should be the same mentality that when you approach an educational-based business, do due diligence, Google them, go onto Facebook, ask for recommendations, make sure that that company, whoever you got, and I said there are a few great companies around South Africa, that they can deliver what they've sold you.
Andrew, what resource, like maybe a book or a course that you did, would you say you gained most of your property knowledge from?
Yeah, you know, it's a good question. Going back, I remember there was a few books I read right in the beginning. The one that comes to mind was the E-Myth. Who's the author of that? E-Myth. I'll think of his name now, but that really made a difference to me. It is actually around business that related to property. It was awesome. Another book that comes to mind is Jason Lee. Jason Lee's got some really awesome books, How to Make Money in the South African Property Market. So look for Jason Lee's books as well. I think he's got 3 or 4 books on the market, How to Make Money through Property. And a lot of my students have read his book, and they've got some great education in there. So definitely start with his books. And yes, so my book is coming. I've been working on this book for years and years and years. And I'm hoping to have my book out by the end of the year.
What is it called? Tell me about it.
So, do you know what? I started this book in 2017, and it was all about living in South Africa, investing in the UK. Then I changed to just investing in South Africa. It is myself and my business partner. Then it changed to just myself. And now, what are we, 5 years later, Sibs? It's going to be the journey of my wife Simone and myself. And in my book, it's going to be all around how has Andrew gone from being employed to self-employed, to becoming a business owner, to becoming an investor, which is basically the Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, right? It's got the 4 different quadrants. So I'm still thinking of the actual name of the book, but because I got so confused. So what can I put in the book? Because I've been involved in over 600 property deals. It's a lot of property deals in England and South Africa. So I thought, like, what do I actually put in the book? And I ended up going, do you know what? I'm just going to write my journey, the wins, the losses, because the problem is, Sibs, people always see the successes. They never get to hear of the losses. You know, what are the deals that I've done, that I've made mistakes, where I've lost money? Because people always hear you make 200 grand or you make 2 million rand or whatever the case is. I'm going to show successes. But the biggest thing, Sibs, is I'm going to paint a realistic picture about the life of a property investor, not just myself and my wife. So I can't wait for it to come out.
I'm very excited for that book to come out. No name yet, but we'll look out for Andrew Walker in the property section when we go to the bookstore. It was so great to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. That's Andrew Walker from the South African Property Network, talking about all the courses that they have to offer. Andrew, thank you so much, and we look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you very much, and I'll see you then.
That's it from me and tonight's episode of the Private Property Podcast. My name is Sibs Matiela. I'll be back again with your next episode in 24 hours.